The following is a Hoop Ball presentation. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast.
I thought about changing the opening music to like a street corner spaghetti shop or something really cool, but I'm too lazy for that. It's Wednesday. That means the triumphant return of the Travelin' Man. Who did Travelin' Man? Was that that wasn't Bobby Darin. Doesn't matter. I'll look it up. That's what the internet's for. Brandon Marcus is back from Europe. Welcome back.
Great intro. Really impressive intro.
Thank you. Yeah. Who the hell sang Travelin' Man? Do you know?
Not a clue.
The 60s song? Ricky Nelson. Thank you, Internet. Appreciate you. So you're a traveling man. You've made a lot of stops all over the world. I'm going to do the whole song.
Pretty much all over Italy. Went to Florence, Milan, and Lake Como. Actually, Como, since Lake is where it is, but whatever. Yes, so it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, how's the sleep? How are your sleep patterns?
My sleep patterns have been very interesting. I slept past noon for the first time when we got to Italy. Somehow went to bed at 11 p.m. in Italy and woke up at 12:15 p.m., which was very strange.
You missed the AMs.
Yeah, I missed the AMs completely. No AMs in my future on that day, as I decided, obviously, to not sleep on the flight. And my body decided not to really sleep going to Italy. So I got like 3 hours of sleep.
Oh,
quite
no.
tired.
Yeah,
If I was Dan, I'd be as sick as a dog.
You would be.
Because I don't have the immune system.
Just you wait, you snarky
baby.
son of a gun.
I don't.
Well, you were probably sick as a baby. I didn't get sick that much as a kid. My parents insulated me for whatever reason, and so now I'm catching all the toddler illnesses that I never got. Oh, by the way, I'm Dan Besbris. I didn't do a traditional intro to this one because I thought it'd be, I don't know, more fun to go the other way, and I was right. Damn it. This is way more fun. I'm reminded by the way, my wife and I went to Thailand on our honeymoon. That was like 7 years ago now. And when we got back, because you cross the international date line traveling traveling back, I guess. You cross it both ways, but one way you're technically going forward, and the other way you're technically going way the hell back. And I remember my wife and I, we went to sleep at a pretty normal hour when we got back home. I think we went to bed at like 11 o'clock, but then we both woke up at 4, just completely wide awake. Like we had both taken caffeine straight into our heart and couldn't go back to sleep. So we just watched a movie at 4 a.m, and that is my one experience with the jet lag. I haven't done a ton of Europe trips. How have you gone multiple times? Is this a thing you've done before?
I've done London, I've done Spain, I've done Israel, and I have now done Italy.
Oh, man. Well, I'm not going to ask you your favorite, but the food in Italy pretty damn good from what I recall, but I was 15 when I went there.
Delicious. The pizza was great. The pasta was great. Had a calzone, which was fantastic. Yeah, really good food. The pizza and pasta is very much as advertised.
Did they put ice in their soda yet?
No.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Did they? I don't think so, now that I think about it.
Yeah, warm.
I think I just got the glass with the bottle, and they just gave it to me like that.
It was like room temperature cola. It's very weird.
And they charge you, by the way, everywhere you go for still water.
Oh.
Every single place you go, you pay for still water. But it does come with a benefit of the fact that you don't tip in Italy.
Oh.
Yeah, they include some service charge, which is like €3 per person, depending on the place you go, €2, €3, €4 per person. And you don't tip. You don't tip taxi drivers either.
So I assume the first thing you're going to do now that you're back in California is go get West LA Italian food?
No. Funny enough, actually, my first actual meal that I bought was lunch today, and it was Baja Fresh. So, of course, I go for Mexican food.
Yeah, you got to go south of the border, man.
Exactly.
So welcome to Fantasy NBA Today, everybody. This is a fun week because Ethan Noroff, who was our guest on Monday, had just done like a weird 3 marketing trip day. So we talked about fruit for 10 minutes. And with you, we're getting a little culture. You were across the pond and then south a little bit. You were, man, that's what, here I am sitting in my pajamas in my bedroom. I got to get it.
Yes, I love that mental image for everybody listening.
It's fine. It's flannel. They're flannel pajamas. I'm not like, I'm not
better.
Yeah, I'm not in my underpants here. I'm not some sort of savage, Brandon.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, I'm a total savage. What are your thoughts on the finals? You and I haven't talked in a couple of weeks. Things have happened since the last time we spoke. Raptors, Warriors, huh?
Yeah, apparently that's a thing. I was following along, and by following along, I mean waking up to see what the score was because of the time difference. I would wake up and the games would all be over, and I didn't get a chance to watch any of that Milwaukee-Toronto final couple of games. And I was obviously stunned when I kept waking up to see that Toronto was winning, and also disappointed because I really do think now Kawhi stays in Toronto. But
right, yes, the Clippers fan perspective. I kind of forgot about that. A bad playoff run might have sent him to your team.
Yeah, that's a bad beat right there. That jump shot that freaking hit every single part of the rim could be the reason why Kawhi doesn't come to LA, which is sad.
That's crazy. That's totally crazy. I didn't even think about it from that perspective as someone who was just sort of like without a fantasy interest. I'm really just sort of casually watching all these games. It is that's a rough way to go for Philly. I know we're going back a couple of series here, but that's crazy. That ball should not have gone in.
Exactly. And if that doesn't go in, it's very possible that Philly ends up winning an OT. But
I think Milwaukee would have beaten Philadelphia too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think so too. I can't believe that Milwaukee beat Toronto. I mean, I looked up and I saw I read that they went like a 26-3 run or something that Toronto went on to come back.
Yeah, the thing about that series, and I know you had to sort of wake up to it. Number one, Toronto's team defense was just amazing. They slowed Milwaukee down in a way that Boston did for like 3/4 of their entire series with the Bucks, and they kept it up. And Milwaukee never really made a big adjustment. They never changed the way they were attacking, and so it just every play down, it was Giannis driving into 4 defenders, stopping about 2 paces shy of the rim, and then looking for someone. But because of the way they had everybody situated, there just wasn't anybody that was open. Someone was immediately closing out, and I don't know who that falls on, Coach Bud or the players or what. But Milwaukee's got a whole offseason now to figure out how to combat that one particular defensive setup and, a couple of small adjustments. Milwaukee, in my estimation, I thought they should have won that series. I thought they were the better team, and they just got totally out-coached and out-game planned by Toronto. So huge credit to the Raptors as a team, and then obviously Kawhi's been pretty good even on one leg.
Yeah, I mean, both teams, when you look at their starting fives, they're both very good. It's just surprising to me that a guy like Bledsoe disappeared as much as he did.
Oh, yeah.
For as good as he was during the regular season, because fantasy-wise, he was a top 40 guy for pretty much the entire year and was very quiet under the radar top 40. I mean, he was very productive. I had him on one of my championship-bound teams. It's just one of those things where you can't keep going 1 for 5 with 5 points and think that you're going to win. I mean, the point guard has to produce. And you're seeing now in a series in the finals, it's 2 point guards, Lowry and Steph Curry, that have produced. And obviously, Lowry's had his off nights. But, man, it's going to be an interesting finals. I think this is the first one you can really go into without LeBron, which is a very interesting side thing in itself, where you think that the Warriors actually are kind of evenly matched with the Raptors, as crazy as that sounds, just with no Durant, if no Cousins as well.
Do you think KD's going to play in this series?
No, I think he's more hurt than the leading on.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And so is Gil Alexander, my buddy over on VSiN. He's got the tinfoil hat strapped on tight on this one. He thinks that it's like a not tear, but like pretty significant Achilles thing that they're just not revealing.
Yeah, I think the same. I think he's traveling just to make the Raptors prepare for him, as if he was going to play. But I would be stunned if he takes the court in any of the 7 games if they play 7 between the two teams.
So let's say, for argument's sake, you were a betting man. The Raptors Raptors at plus 230, Warriors minus 280. Is that enough of an underdog price to get in on Toronto?
Probably not, because I think you're better off just betting individual games.
Yeah, or looking for a potential series middle would be the other way to try to approach it. I'm trying to make up for lost ground here because Neil is under the weather. I don't know if you had a chance to... No, I think you were out of town, so almost undoubtedly you didn't hear Neil's Thursday show from last week. Mm-mm. The dude sounded worse than I usually do, which is saying something.
That is saying something.
So I didn't have my betting show this week, and I've got this itch, and nobody's helping me scratch it so far.
Well, I mean, I like the possibility of me getting 2.5 to 1 on a team in the finals when it's a 50-50 shot of one or the other.
Right.
Isn't bad, but I'll be curious to see. I haven't even looked to see what the line is. Do you know what the line is for game one?
Raptors, believe it or not, are a 1-point favorite in game one. Basically a pick'em.
So with that being said, and with the fact that you can look at it and think that the Raptors are probably going to be a favorite for the first two games, you're getting, what, plus 260?
Plus 230 on Toronto.
Plus 230 on a team that's going to be the favorite the first two games of the series. That's pretty solid. That is sort of a weird juxtaposition. The discussion I had with myself on yesterday's show was basically this series is priced with the Warriors at minus 280. The expectation, given they're a road team, they had the poorer regular season record. There's an expectation built into that number that they will win at least one road game. There has to be. So I don't see this line moving that much if Golden State wins on the road. The thing that could change this line considerably is a Raptors win. And so if I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, all right, maybe I go Raptors plus 230. If they win, to me, either of the first two games, that line actually probably comes down. I think I agree.
People think the Warriors are winning them.
The more I look at that line, the more I like it.
But then you want to... I'm also sort of I'm a very safe man, and so if this thing were to create any kind of hedging opportunity, I would do that as well. Because I'm not convinced the Raptors win the series. If I'm betting into Toronto, it's with the expectation that the price comes down, and then maybe I could get on the Warriors at, like, I don't know, minus 180 or minus 170 if indeed Toronto can take a 1-0 lead or a 1-1 tie or something of that effect. So
that makes sense. That really does make sense. And I was thinking earlier today, I was talking to somebody that the one thing about Toronto is that they could very easily go into Golden State. And I thought, well, because Golden State hasn't done great in the postseason at home. However, I just looked it up. And that's just me, the Clippers guy, that knows that, because the Clippers, don't forget, won 2 games at Oracle during the first round. And they won one game 135-131, the other one 129-121. So it is possible to go into Oracle and win, even though Houston and Portland couldn't.
What about what actually happens in the series? Forget it. I'm going to move away from the betting a little bit. Do the Raptors have a legitimate chance to win this series? Can they win 4 games?
Yeah, of course they can. I think, by the way, that if I'm not mistaken, the Warriors haven't beaten them this year.
You're right.
So why are we forgetting that? I mean, you're getting, like, going back to the 230, you're getting the favorite the first 2 games of the series, most likely, and you're getting plus 230 on a team that hasn't lost to their opponent so far this season, and there's no Kevin Durant. I mean, I really think we're looking at this way too much. I mean, you obviously have to give the Warriors a lot of credit because they're the team that keeps going to the finals. But at some point, you got to look at what's right in front of you.
It's pretty weird to think that Golden State is a 1-point underdog in the actual ball game. That feels like a number that is asking for Warriors money. It makes me think that early money and big money probably came in on Toronto. And I have no reason to back this up, but it's a pretty weird thing to see the reigning champs, the team o' the decade, Golden State, as an underdog in a game 1 in the NBA Finals.
Dude, that's begging for public money. It's begging. It's begging for public money on the Warriors.
Thing is, they sometimes get them right, though.
Oh, of course. I mean, that's Vegas. I mean, they're not going to always get them wrong.
No.
But in a lot of these situations where they beg for public money, the team like the Raptors end up winning game 1.
Let's keep a close watch on that. It is a pretty weird line, especially given the minus 280 Warriors series price. that they're underdogs on the road. If they're expected to win a road game and yet they're the road underdog, something isn't meshing. The gears are not in sync at that point, so something is off.
Because if you look at it, you would think that the line should be closer to Warriors maybe minus 160.
Right.
Or something like that.
If they're calling these games in Toronto, pick them. Now, obviously, when they change venues, it's probably going to be more like Warriors -5, Warriors -6.
Still not that big, though.
No. Toronto's a good team.
-5 is what? Minus 180, minus 190?
I need Neil. To break down my math, the points per. Yeah, I threw that stuff into the part of my brain where all of my memories from my first 3 years of college are. I can't recall that area. The Sacramento Kings is the other topic of the day. We wanted to talk playoffs first because for many, many days I had a sign on my treehouse. There were no Kings allowed. But this year I had to take the sign down because Sacramento actually has a couple of good fantasy players on their team this year. And so our goal, and I expressed this on yesterday's podcast and the day before actually, is a little bit less to dig into the salary cap stuff. There were some notes about how, there were some things that we weren't 100% right on. And so I think maybe our best move here is, look, we're not a salary cap podcast. We're a fantasy podcast that watches a lot of basketball, but I don't know what a mid-level exception does. I don't know when you can use it. I can tell you what a hard cap is, but I know that there's almost no such thing because somehow everybody can spend over it if they want. What we can tell you, is who played well in fantasy, who didn't, and then expectations based on hype, name recognition, potential suitors, where we think guys might end up the following year. So that's the angle we're going to move with all of these postmortems. Postmorta? I don't know what the plural. I'm going to go with postmortems on that one. Moving forward, that's how we're going to break these things down. So, Brandon, Sacramento, dealer's choice here. Where do you want to start? What player should we break down first? Just their best one?
Marvin Bagley.
So not their best one, but an interesting one nonetheless. Marvin Bagley, top 150 in 9-cat this last year. 15 points, 7.6 rebounds, half a steal, a block, 69% at the free throw line, 50% from the field, but did seem to show improvement in his foul shooting as the season went on. He was a little bit better later in the year. Not by a ton, like 71 instead of 68, but something. And he's obviously their big man of the future. He's signed for a while, so we don't have to worry about that aspect of things. What do you think about his season, and what do you think we can take away from it going into draft season next year?
I owned him in a league for, I think, was it February and March maybe? And he was solid, man. He was getting a solid 18, 11, good percentages. It was a league that counts double-doubles, so even better. I liked what I saw from him. He's a really good ball player, and I think it's a guy that can help you without really hurting you. Free throw percentage, like you mentioned, is something that you definitely want to keep an eye on. But after watching DJ shoot 80% for damn near the first 2 months of the season, anything's possible with guys improving their free throw percentage. And if you know you're getting good field goal percentage, you know you're going to get steals, blocks, points, rebounds. I love it.
So the question becomes, where does he get drafted next year? Because I don't think he's going around 150, even though that's where he finished this season. I got to think he's going much higher than that. But is it too high? I mean, how will he fall to teams that you own? Will he fall to teams that I own? I have a feeling he's going to get drafted pretty early. I think he's going to be a guy that has a decent amount of hype around his name.
Marvin Bagley, you can't look at him overall, though. I mean, the season rank obviously is going to be high, but I feel like if you took out and just did the last 2 or 3 months once he was inserted in the starting lineup, I would guess he was closer to top 100.
I can try to find that.
Where I would draft him.
I'm going to see if I can find a little bit more on Bagley later in the year. Last 30 games, he was number 98.
There you go.
And I'll check a shorter time span on that as well. We'll go last 20 games on Bagley. He was 109. So he was like a top 100 guy after a very rough start, which isn't bad. Do you think he falls to 100? I think someone takes him around 75.
Yeah, I'm happy taking him in the 75-80 range. And that goes to our conversation we had, like a month ago or so, where we said, once you get to that 70, 65, 70, choose who you want. And which guy can end up as a top 20 guy when the season's done? Why can't Marvin Bagley?
Well, I'll play a little devil's advocate here then.
Sure.
Can he get the free throw percent up to 75?
Yes.
Okay. Can he block more than one shot per game?
Yes.
Can he... Well, let's see. What else do I have here? All right. I mean, if he's going for 18 and 9 with a 3-pointer, a steal, and or a 3-pointer, half a steal, a block, and he's shooting 50% from the field and 75 at the foul line, yeah, that's definitely a top 75 guy.
Looking up his college stats right now because I'm curious to see how he did at Duke.
At the foul line?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I know nothing about what guys did in college.
So 63% at Duke. And he went from 63% at Duke to then going to 69% this year. So
it seems doable. It seems doable.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he hit a 3-pointer, so there is some touch there. I'm always a little bit concerned about trying to project a second-year bump for a guy. The one thing I think you probably can project is that his minutes are going to be higher than 25 a game next year.
Yeah, no doubt. That seems to be obvious at this point, that he's going to be locked in. And when he was starting, look up that top 30 or that last month again or whatever it is that you saw, his minutes had to be hovering closer around 32.
Let's see. He was 28 the last 20 games of the year, and that's where he was going for 18 and 9. Okay. Presumably, assuming that Luke Walton is indeed the head coach of this team next year, and we're not going to get into any of that stuff on the podcast, he likes to run a higher-paced offense. I don't know that the Kings are, and this again gets into a little bit of the salary stuff, I don't think the Kings are all that inclined to bring back Willie Cauley-Stein, which would open up a lot of space in the front court. Maybe they do. I don't know.
They should have traded him at the deadline.
Yes, they should
have. That was the one guy that seemed like a no-brainer that should have gone. But he didn't go. And by the way, keep in mind what Julius Randle did under Luke Walton. And it's very possible that we could see Bagley do something similar.
Yeah, they don't seem all that. I mean, Randall's a shorter guy, shorter and stouter, but there is a certain similarity to their fantasy game. Points, rebounds, little bit of defensive stuff. Percentages are almost a dead heat between the two guys. I think Randall's free throw percent has slowly climbed higher.
And Randall wasn't much of a three-point shooter.
No, he's expanded his game as well.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't think he's going to fall far enough for me. And then there's obviously format stuff too. Like if you talked about a format with double-doubles, he's going to be a threat to get one of those every night.
Yes.
And he had quite a few of them this year. I don't have the number offhand, but I know just his last 3 games, he double-doubled in 2 out of the 3 of them. I need to see him, he was averaging a block in 25 minutes a game. As his minutes increase, does that number come with it, or does the rate actually dip a little bit? Still, when you're projecting, if he's going to play 30 minutes a game, there's a lot to like there, and you just have to make sure you balance out the free throw stuff. But I agree with you. I think that there is a way he gets into the top 75. You can draw the path a lot easier than, say, last year folks were trying to convince me that Donovan Mitchell could get inside the top 20, and I said this is a guy that's going to need to add like 6% to his field goal number to climb that high. I just didn't see a path to it, whereas with Bagley, you can draw a line, and you basically did, because I was trying to play devil's advocate, and you were like, yeah, those things can happen, because it's not that big of a jump. 4 or 5% of the foul line, keep the blocks at 1 or above, keep the field goal percent high enough. I don't care that much about three-pointers. Add some points and rebounds because he's just on the floor more, and you got a thing. But what about the guys around him? Let's throw the question mark into the mix. I was actually bouncing around on Twitter a little bit today. Harrison Barnes has not yet decided if he's going to exercise his $25 million player option or try to go get a longer-term deal. I would love it if he was not in Sacramento. I feel like his departure would only free up the Bagley front court even more for our perspective here.
Yep, I'm with you. And Harrison Barnes is not a guy that I care about in fantasy. I mean, fine,
Agreed.
he'll get you points, he'll get you rebounds, he'll get you threes, but I can't do it. I can't go down that road. I just won't do it. I refuse.
Yeah, I'll bang the gavel in favor of that motion. He's extremely boring. I forget, someone had a funny nickname for him that was on the show, and I don't remember exactly what it was. But, I mean, he was number 130 in 9-cat last year. His field goal percent continues to dip. This is a guy that got a max contract, and even at the time it seemed like an insane salary to pay that kid. He's fine, but he's just going to gum up the works in Sacramento at this point. So hopefully...
Their guards shot better than he did.
What's that?
Their guards shot better than he did.
Oh, yeah. He had the worst field goal percent
Fox.
of anybody in there playing big minutes for that team.
Yeah, I want nothing to do with him. So, yes, the more Harrison Barnes-type people are going to take up shots that leave, the better. And that team really should be Buddy, Fox, and Bagley.
And you are absolutely right. And then, by the way, I should correct myself. Bogdanovich shot the same percentage as Harrison Barnes. They're both at 42 last year. I think Barnes may have been 1/1000th of a point better than Bogdan, so I spoke in error, and for that I apologize. So why don't we talk about Bogdan? He's got some problems with his fantasy game. He was a guy that people picked up early in the year. He was injured to start the season. He kind of got it going in the middle part of the year, and then his shot left him. He ended up shooting just 41.9% from the field. Good foul shooting numbers, 2 3-pointers, 14, 3.5, and 4 with a steal. The problem is taking more shots or getting higher volume. I don't know if that would be a good thing for him.
Yeah, it doesn't shoot very well. I mean, it's one of those guys that if you need threes, go ahead and go after him. And apart from that, it's points and threes. So it's how many of those guys will we see? I mean, how many of those times do we look at guys like Luke Kennard and Wade Ellington that you just need threes and you go and grab them? Danny Green gives you more and will also shoot threes. So I'd rather have a guy like Green instead of Bogdan.
What do you think about Nemanja Bjelica for next year? It seems as though I think they've got him signed for $7 million this coming season. If my numbers are correct, he had weird stretches of value. Could we end up seeing, let's say Barnes leaves, could we see a Bjelica Bagley front court? I don't know.
It's one of those things where I wouldn't draft him just because you want to draft somebody that you know is going to contribute. And Bjelica is not going to be a guy that will end up producing top 70 value, whatever it is. And he's a guy that you can end up dropping right away. So I'd rather have the potential of a guy who could go, I don't know, top 50, top 60, than someone that I'm more confident, or someone like Bjelica who I'm more confident in that I'm going to end up dropping.
Yeah. The only way I think I would grab him would be in this sort of middle of no man's land part of the draft, and that's only if we find out that the rest of their front court options have disappeared. If Willie Cauley-Stein is gone, if Harrison Barnes is gone, then you're looking at a ton of minutes for both Bagley and Bjelica, I would think, just because there's nobody else on the roster. I mean, I think Costa Koufos is off the roster as well. His salary expired. They've got no other big men besides those two guys if there's no Cauley-Stein and Harrison Barnes. So we have a lot left to be seen on that front court front. All right, the fun part of the Kings. This is the guys that made me take the sign off my treehouse. De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield. Fox was number 66 this last year in 9-cat, 17 points, 7 assists, 1.6 steals. Weighed down a little bit by poor free throw shooting on 5 a game. He got to the line a lot and shot just 72.5%, which, again, not great. That hurts you a little bit. Another guy where you look at him and you're like, okay, there is a path to him having even more fantasy value, and it's fixing the free throw stroke. But for me, Brandon, when I look at this dude, my fear is that he had so many vines on Twitter over the course of the year and so much hype around his name. And for good reason, he had a great season. I can't imagine he falls far enough where I can get him at the price I'd want to.
Let's fire up the last month or two, if you can do that easily. Because if I'm not mistaken, he fell off a little bit. I could be dead wrong, but I do remember there being a stretch where he was obviously a top 20, 30 guy, and then I don't think that continued. I could be crazy, but I think you're pretty spot on here. We talked about Bagley, and improving his free throw percentage. Fox has had the exact same free throw percentage really for 2 years in a row now. So at this point, you have such a big sample size with 2 years and that many free throws. He kind of is what he is. However, that being said, guys do improve their jump shot. And so they can improve their jump shot. They can improve at the line. The turnovers are really high, but you got to think the more and more he has the ball, the more and more turnovers he could get. And obviously does help out assists, steals, points. You love that. But, yeah, the more volume, the more risk the free throw percentage goes down, the more risk he goes to the line. If he can't improve the free throw percentage could hurt you. So I like him a lot as a player, but I think he's going to go too high for where I want him.
Yeah, I mean, he finished at 66. I would happily take him at 66 next year. I think there's a 0% chance he falls that far.
Yeah.
0. I don't know where he goes. I got to think he goes probably in the
top 50.
Yeah, I was going to say the 40 to 50 range would be my expectation. And that's fine. I mean, he proved himself to be quite durable. He played in 81 games. I don't see the easy path for him to be a top 40 guy. It seems like it would have to be at the foul line. I don't care if he doesn't add any more three-pointers. I mean, there's so many places to get him. You just said it a moment ago. It's got to be the free throw line. And I don't know. Maybe he proves me wrong, but that to me, if you're spending your 4th-round pick on a guy, you got to be pretty sure of what you're getting, and there's a lot of question mark there. And then, of course, the last one here, Buddy Hield, played in all 82 games this season, number 38 by average, 23 by totals because he was so unbelievably durable, 20.7 points, 5 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 3.4 three-pointers per game. That's a big number. That's the type of impact threes that, again, it's not just a couple floating around. That's a big deal. Low turnovers at 1.8. That's slightly sub-average or sub-league average. 89% at the free throw line and 46 from the field when you're making all those threes. That's not easy to do. The only real hole in Buddy Hield's game is that he doesn't do anything on the defensive end. I actually think that there's a world where he slips past where he finished last year, even though I see no reason for him to drop off.
I like him a lot.
Me too.
He was great at Oklahoma. Let's not forget that. This is a guy that when he was in college, everyone was saying when he was on ESPN every single week, this guy's going to be unbelievable. He's going to be an amazing pro. Then all of a sudden he went to New Orleans, I believe, when he got drafted, and he wasn't doing anything. Everyone was like, oh, this guy averaging 8.5 points per game his rookie year. He sucks. Then all of a sudden he gets traded over to Sacramento, and then he gets freed. And he's a tremendous ball player. I mean, in 2016-17, he averaged 15 points for Sacramento. Then he averaged 13.5, and then he averaged 20.7. So he took that leap that you would expect a guy to take, and he's an incredible free throw shooter, like you said. Rebounds, he improved upon from his last couple of years. He got 0.1 more blocks, which whatever.
Yeah, it's nothing.
It's nothing. Steals, he's shown in the past he can get it. I mean, he's actually had his worst steal rate in his 3 years with Sacramento. He went 0.7 as opposed to 0.8 his first year with them and 1.1 last year. I like him. I really do. And someone that could add maybe, I don't know if he adds, half of a steal at half of a block. I know it's a large number to add. And then maybe kicks his points up to 22 or 23. Dude, that's the type of guy that you can get in the 5th round, maybe 4th round, that ends up being a top 20 guy.
I'm really curious, Brandon, where this guy ends up getting drafted this year. Those first mock drafts and the ADP numbers on Buddy Hield, to me, are going to reveal a ton, because I think there's, and maybe I'm wrong, I could very well be off base with this, but I would bet that if you polled the non-degenerates, so not us, not any of our listeners here at Fantasy NBA Today, really nobody at Hoop Ball, but if you just went out into like the Yahoo, random leagues where you just get assigned to them, Yahoo Pro Leagues or something like that,
yeah,
I bet that if you polled all of those and said, hey, who do you think was a better 9-cat value at the end of last year, De'Aaron Fox or Buddy Hield, it would be like a 50-50 split. I don't think people realize that Buddy Hield was a solid 2.5 rounds better than De'Aaron Fox. And for that reason, I think you might see De'Aaron Fox drafted ahead of Buddy Hield next season.
I could see that. For sure. I could absolutely see that. And remember, everyone was talking more about Fox than they were Hield. And like you said, more highlights. I could see a world where Buddy Hield falls outside the top 50 and you're happy to grab him.
Oh, I would be elated, because he's another guy like Bagley we were just talking about. And for Bagley, it's, moving up from the lower rungs to the low mid rungs. For Hield, it's from the high middle to actually the upper echelon. There isn't a path for him to actually get a little bit higher. It's, add one more shot per game, or hell, 89% free throw shooter. If he gets to the line 2.8 times per game instead of 2.4, these are those little things that can move you from 38 to 35 to 32. It's really hard to make jumps once you get into the low 30s and 20s. So I don't know that he could necessarily clear top 25, but if he gets back to 1 steal a game instead of 0.7, these are these little things that really could happen next year that takes him from 38 to 30. And so, I mean, if he falls to 40, anywhere past that, I think he's a decent grab. I see no reason for him to have any tail off. And that's basically it outside of Willie Cauley-Stein. And, I mean, I haven't a clue if he comes back. Let's assume, for argument's sake, he does come back, which still seems somewhat unlikely. I think odds are he's not back with Sacramento. But he was sat right around the top 100 basically every minute all season long.
No thanks.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Bad free throw shooter,
a hard
too.
Pass. He had his chance. He's had his chance 2 or 3 years in a row, and he hasn't taken advantage of it. And if he hasn't by now, no thanks. One thing to add on Buddy. How many games do you think he's missed in his career?
I'm guessing the number is awfully low, given the fact that he played 82 this season.
Okay. So he's played 2 seasons, obviously, before that. How many games do you think how many games did he miss his rookie year?
I haven't a clue. 2? 3?
0.
Really?
How many games did he miss his sophomore year?
Is it also 0? No, he doesn't have a streak going, so it's got to be 1.
It's 2. But
okay,
yeah,
so I was close.
It's 2 total games in 3 years. That's what we're talking about when you and I went back and forth about health and how important that is to have a guy that's in your lineup. And Buddy Hield clearly is a guy that takes care of himself. So barring something fluky, he's going to be a guy that's going to be there the whole way.
And especially if you end up with someone on your team in the first 2 to 3 rounds that has big steals numbers, then you grab a guy like Buddy Hield, and it's almost like it floats his value if you're not worried about the fact that he's not a giant defensive guy. It's like, you know what, screw it. Maybe he doesn't go from 0.7 back to 1 steal per game. I don't care. I've got that category in good shape, and so I can sort of absorb the fact that he's not really doing much of anything for me in this department. His other stuff is just so damn good. If you get somebody that can rein in 3-pointers without killing your field goal percent, that's a huge kick in the rear for your fantasy team, because then you don't have these drags. You can afford to get big guys who don't have the crazy high field goal percent, so they don't kill your free throw number. It opens up a lot of avenues for you, and I don't know. I'm really interested in that first ADP number. Really interested. Because if it comes out and he's actually getting drafted in the mid-30s, then I'm going to be pretty sad. But I have this weird inkling that he's going to drop just the tiniest bit because he doesn't really dunk. And that, for whatever reason, it's the name thing. De'Aaron Fox has the name thing. There's everybody's ducking De'Aaron Fox. He's the fastest man alive. Buddy Hield's just quietly out there raining in buckets at an incredibly high percentage. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you can even get a guy, Robert Covington, later on that could get you steals and blocks.
Oh man, I'm so excited about Rob Covington next year. I'm actually kind of upset that that's on Friday this week. Adrian and Coach have the Timberwolves, so I might just send him a note. Oh, wait, that was last week. I think that was last week.
Your baby has distracted you.
I know. I know.
We heard him in the background. He was very excited about Buddy Hield.
He was.
Distracted you.
He was just getting out of bath time. He was very excited about Rob Covington also. The Wolves were last Friday. I should have sent those guys a message saying, hey, tell everybody how much Dan Besbris is dropping the giggity for Rob Covington, especially the fact that he missed so much time this year. He's going to fall so far. It's going to be awesome.
I got him for $1 in my ESPN auction.
Oh, my God.
This year. Yeah, I got him, Joe Ingles, and one other guy. It's like these guys that are producing but just aren't sexy names.
No.
And, I love it.
Oh, man. This is why I know everybody hates 9-Cat all of a sudden now. This is why I still love it, because these types of things can have such a huge impact. And I think in real life there is a value to a guy who doesn't make a ton of mistakes, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. I don't understand why you get rid of turnovers. That's stupid.
Yeah, they're a thing. They matter. You
just load up on guys who just, I don't know, like John Walls and Russell Westbrooks.
Yeah, I don't want a whole team of John Walls. He didn't really help the Wizards. So why should... Anyway, it's fine. I understand both ways. I like the fact that I can throw turnovers in there, because then, these guys that make good decisions get a little boost in your fantasy team. It's one more thing you can mess with. I do understand the other side, though, because you and I had that discussion a few weeks ago. You get to the head-to-head playoffs and you're just trying to outgame your opponent. So at that point, you're probably going to lose turnovers. But in Roto, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, discussion for another day, obviously. Any final thoughts on the finals of the Kings? Because, we only talk once a week.
No final thoughts on the Kings. I think we'll figure that out once the initial rankings come out.
Yeah.
On the finals, with everything that I said, I do think the Raptors have a chance, but I don't know. It's just something about Steph and Clay and this team, and it just seems like Steph has a point that he has to prove at this point. So I think he's basically saying, all right, this team's going on my back. KD's leaving, so I think that somehow Golden State will end up winning this series.
Here's my. Go ahead. Give me Toronto on the series before Game 1. Raptors will win Game 1. Then I'll bet the Warriors and the Dubs will win Game 2. There's my hot take for the end of the show. I'm calling my shot. Right?
I like it.
Screw it. I could be wrong. I probably will be, but I'll plant my flag in something. Yeah, the hell with it. Plant my flag in something, even if it's idiotic. That's the way to get listeners, right?
Yes, and if you're correct, they all think you're a genius.
Yeah, if I'm wrong, you just say, well, I was wrong. I had nothing to lose. Brandon, go get some sleep. Thanks for waking up. This is the middle of the night for you, so we do appreciate it.
I was awake, for anyone that was curious. I did have a full day, a normal day, but yes, I am now going to go to sleep. It's been great chatting with you, Dan. I missed you last week, and I'm glad to be back.
Yes, we are happy to have you. I had Brandon put his phone on vibrate and put it in his pocket so I could Skype him and wake him up. That's how we pull this. At BD Marcus on Twitter. I'm at Dan Besbris Fantasy NBA Today. A hoop ball presentation also brought to you by our good friends at Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee Company, a team, the Sacramento Kings, that will not need caffeine. They will be playing very fast. There's my tie-in for the day. De'Aaron Fox actually looks like he's on a bunch of Hawaiian Isles dark roast going into every ball game. That dude is wide awake. But Buddy Hield, he's the one that gets us going over here. We'll keep an eye on it. Plenty of time. Free agency, all that good stuff. We're still months away. We're just throwing out some predictions here, trying to give you guys a couple of kind of soft lists to have in hand as we turn the corner and head into the finals that begin. Geez, tomorrow. They still haven't started. Oh, for heaven's sake. Brandon will be back next Wednesday. Neil will be back tomorrow. I hope to the good Lord that his flu has finally subsided. It's been a bad one. And then Adrian and Coach will wrap the week up on Friday. Next two teams being profiled, the Hornets and the Pistons. The fringe of the East. There is fantasy value, especially if Kemba's not back. Make sure to stay tuned for those two shows to finish up the week. I will be back. Dan, I will be back. The show will be back tomorrow. I'll be back on Monday with Ethan. We'll talk to the Orlando Magic. Enjoy the rest of the week. Enjoy the start of the finals. Talk to you soon.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.